everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds, and we are live. I am Captain Logan, and my entire panel this evening consists of Eric. And
I forgot that we do the introduction thing. I'm so used to doing the other kinds of videos.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, don't worry about it. We might end up having Manos here with us. He was trying to get in, was having issues with his audio. We couldn't hear him, so he's gonna try to get back in, maybe, possibly. But otherwise, it's gonna be just me and Eric tonight. Just a little intimate discussion about Logan and the future of superhero and comic movies, because that's a thing, you know, we so rarely talk about the speculation of what we think might happen down the road with superhero and comic book movies, Eric. It's going to be a real nice, fun, fresh change of pace. No, this is a really cool topic, and I called this tonight Life After Logan, Eric, and we're going to tackle that here in just a little bit. But before that happens, hello, everybody in YouTube land. Thanks for watching. We sure appreciate it. If you are joining us live, and thanks for watching if you're doing that after the fact, let me do a little bit of kind of business clerical stuff here before we get into tonight's topic, and of course open forum at the end, and the segments we always do on this show. I'm going to take a few weeks off after tomorrow from the channel, mostly, with a few exceptions. If that runs into Guardians, which it almost certainly will, I will of course come back to do the How We Felt About for that and the spoiler cast. And Eric, I've been racking my brain. There's something else that's happening in the next week or two that I wanted to make sure that we covered, but it's not a movie. I can't think of what it is, but there's something that's going to sneak up. Oh, I know what it is. It's Judas Contract. It's that Teen Titans movie. So we'll probably want to try to tackle that when it comes out to you. So there's a few kind of timely things that we're gonna deal with as soon as those come out, but I'm not gonna be putting out as much daily stuff because I wanted to take a little sabbatical so that I could work on a novel. I've got a book I'm about to start writing, and I need to be able to focus completely on that. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that hasn't followed us on social media, because I haven't put out a video talking about that yet. I'll probably do some kind of an update thing this week so that folks know about that, but I just wanted to front load this, letting folks know that this will be the last live show for at least 4 weeks, if not 6. I don't keep people updated about how that's going and how much time I think I'm going to need, but I'm going to take at least 4 to 6 weeks. Anyway, also tomorrow night I'm recording the March pool party with Lo and Ian, and I'll have that up for you this week as well, including also the last goods of Marvel Mania, which are recorded, and it just haven't gone up yet because Eric's Civil War had massive issues in exporting. So yeah, that show, it's funny, we just got that uploaded half an hour ago. So there are probably some folks that are trying to decide if they're going to watch us talk live or watch a movie with us talking with it, not live. So sorry about that. I did not mean for these things to compete with each other. But anyway, if you haven't looked at that video yet, and most of you watching right now, I'm sure, haven't, we recorded a Civil War commentary the other day, and then we lost the file, and we had to shoot it again, and then it took forever to get it exported and uploaded. So for a minute, it looked like Civil War was just not meant to be with Marvel Mania. We have recorded all of the rest of that show.
Both of them were real good.
Yeah, they both turned out really well, and actually, I'm glad that we did that second one, because Sarah was there, and we got some more interesting discourse about the actual issues that are being discussed in that movie. So I was really happy with how that turned out. But we also have already recorded the last 2, Apocalypse and Doctor Strange, and those will come out just ASAP. I've got Apocalypse already exported, so that'll start uploading tonight, and then hopefully tomorrow I can get Doctor Strange up. So those are coming as well, and by at least the end of this week, I'll also have the second part of the top 10 animated Spider-Man show. So this week will look like a normal week by and large. You will get a video about every day because of some things I have backlogged. I also have a couple comic vaults that, if I can find the time while I'm in the middle of working on preliminaries for this book I'm about to write, I will also go ahead and try to get up as well. I did that video with Steve, like a month and a half ago now that I still haven't gotten around to exporting or to editing. Yeah.
I Am Gotham?
Yeah, I Am Gotham. That's not up yet. And I just did a comic vault with Deadpoolzilla last night on the Batman Predator comics. We had an hour and a half discussion on those.
We did seen Predator.
Because I finally sat down and watched Predator. I'm real embarrassed about that, by the way.
Did it inform the comics? Did you feel like you knew more?
You know, a little bit. I mean, not by a whole lot, but I was like, oh, okay, so these are the things the comics made up, and these are the things that it got from the movie.
Do they call them the Utaja?
No, that never comes up because it's mostly from Batman and street level folks' perspectives. So you don't really get into, you know, I mean, you almost never get into the heads of Predator.
That's a name that comes from the comics and is basically canonical at this point. Like, that's what they're called, kind of like the Xenomorphs.
Okay, yeah, well, nobody comes to Earth that can tell Batman about that. Is the thing. I mean, everything he learns. And by the way, have you read that?
No.
That first mini is dynamite. It's Deadpoolzilla said it was the best crossover he's ever read, and he's a big crossover guy. That's kind of his thing in comics, and it's up there. I mean, I think it's just fabulous. But and they basically play Predator like a Batman villain.
Oh, interesting.
And I really kind of liked that take, and it was the right time because it was 91, and so that was right around Nightfall, and Batman comics looked really gritty and gruff and dirty anyway, and so it looks like a Batman comic and a Predator comic just by virtue of looking like a Batman comic right there.
Before or
then.
After AVP actually happens, do you know?
I'm not sure. I think it's before, but I don't know. I'd have to go back and look because I know it's right around there. I know it's was it 91, 92?
Alien Predator versus track. That's by and large a mostly good track record, actually.
Yeah.
The Alien versus whatever, Predator versus whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Alien versus Predator versus Superman versus Batman.
And we didn't deal with that because we kind of tackled this as a trilogy, and we didn't want to do all of those things. But yeah, there's been a lot of versus with other companies. But I guess mostly DC.
Yeah, because when they cross over Judge Dredd, that's when DC had the license to Judge Dredd. And
then they cross into all kinds of things that Dark Horse already has the rights to. But Deadpoolzilla said,
how is there no Predator/Alien versus Buffy?
Oh, I know, that would have been great. I mean, too late now.
No,
but no, that is who has that right now. Yeah. Sorry, strike that. I was thinking Angel with IDW, but you're right. They have that right now. Yeah, that should happen.
Yeah,
but sometimes that's difficult. Like, just because you have the rights to make a particular comics doesn't mean you necessarily have the rights to cross them. Sometimes there's like a lot of phone calls and logistics and paperwork that you have to deal with.
That topic. What comics should Alien Predator cross over with that they have not yet crossed over with? The best one?
It's going to be real insightful, guys.
The best one
wait.
is Stormwatch, because that's how you get the authority. And Warren Ellis was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And like, but you can kill anyone that you want to kill.
Yeah.
And so he just murdered all of the characters he didn't create and just took those characters and made authority. That's how he got rid of all of the Stormwatch characters he didn't want to use.
See, that actually becomes a huge problem in the second Batman versus Predator, because there's a team of bad guys that are totally throwaway and expendable. And I think are made up for that book, although one or two of them might not be, but just so that they can kill them off and it still feel like a thing that could be canonical with Batman, because it isn't technically, but everything kind of sort of fits. So at first it was supposed to be, according to Deadpoolzilla, he looked into this, and apparently it was supposed to be a bunch of Batman villains, but they didn't want to kill them all off because they wanted it to feel like a thing that could fit in the canon. But anyway, so that's a thing you'll hear me talk about even more ad nauseum as soon as I get that video up. Let's go ahead and go into tonight's topic. And tonight's topic comes from Doc Holocron on Facebook. Thanks, Doc Holocron. And he asks, how will Logan's success influence comic book movies in the future? Will we get more rated R movies based on mature characters? And if so, will they be as good or try too hard to include adult content where it doesn't belong? And this was, of course, a question that we were asking after Deadpool, and now the flavor is different. Now, because
what's important is we've now had two successful rated R super movies that are on completely different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Because after Deadpool, the fear would be you're going to get a bunch of movies trying to be Deadpool. But now we've had two successful ones that are very different,
and that it would just be really gratuitous, and that you wouldn't necessarily get things that were you know, more mature and sophisticated, just mature with a lowercase m. And now that we've had Logan, it's hard for me, and I guess I'll just start off by saying it's hard for me not to think that that's not going to possibly kind of set a new trend and be a trailblazer for studios giving directors more carte blanche to actually tell a story, as opposed to just tactically trying to make something monetarily viable. That the fact that, and I know I say this all the time, but the fact that Logan resonated with people tells you that very often, and this doesn't always work, and sometimes it's not the right time. Sometimes you got to wait for lightning to strike, you know. But that was a case where just making something that you wanted to see, you found out that there were plenty of other people that wanted to see that also. That is the. I would go as far as to say, and this might be hyperbolic, that might be the least formulaic movie based on a comic book anybody's ever made.
Maybe.
Because even Dark Knight, you could point to a little bit of comic book formula stuff.
Yeah.
And so that is really exciting to me moving forward. That, you know, after I did the How He Felt About way back when on Iron Man 3, I made the point in that video that and I can't remember what about it made me think this, but just on a first viewing, there was something about that I thought was really predictable. And I said that, and I said, you know, we're in a place now where it's kind of more problematic than it used to be when the superhero and comic book movies are predictable, because they're just movies now. They're not just catering to comic book fans that want to see comic book storytelling brought to screen. And somebody in the comments of that video said, well, that's not fair. Comic book movies, by and large, are formulaic. It's not fair to complain that they are. And then you get something like Logan, and it just changes everything potentially. So what do you think? I mean, is this going to make a difference? Is this Dark Knight again?
The biggest change that I think for sure will happen, because Marvel will not do R-rated. I could see DC flirting with it, but the biggest change that I'm sure will happen is Fox. Fox will make more. They will find every X-Men character they can that they can make an R-rated movie for. I bet you if we ever get that Gambit movie, it's rated R.
Do you think Fox becomes maybe then the company that makes superhero movies for adults?
This is a third-party alternative. Yeah. No,
but that's specifically like, now we make rated R and more rated R movies. I mean, because they still have X-Men, I don't think they'll make rated R X-Men. I don't see that. I don't see a team of X-Men
spin-off film
that is just aimed at kids. On the other hand, I could certainly see them pushing that envelope a little harder than they have.
You get a rated R long shot movie?
That's a long shot. But what
Perhaps Dazzler?
What I would love to see happen, of course, is for this to translate to making films that are more character driven and more sophisticated, and they're not having to be rated R before we're thinking about it that way. What I want to think is that, especially Fox, because of Deadpool,
you can just make a movie
and especially Logan,
ends up as R.
Exactly. Yeah, and we can just make more thoughtful movies. I think about who we're aiming it at. I mean, obviously, target audience, as far, at the very least, when you're writing, keeping your audience in mind, but it's also okay to make things that are, you know, supposed to be kind of accessible, and to make things, but on the other side, to make things that might end up appealing to a wide variety of people, but are somewhat unclassifiable. You just make the thing tonally consistent, and you make it like have an internal logic, and then that will appeal to people inherently.
I think it's possible we could just see like X-Men being the only thing in the X-Men universe that's, because Legion is not a
oh no, it's real adult too.
Yeah, X-Force could easily, that movie that they keep threatening us with, that could also easily be an R-rated film.
But that makes so much sense because X-Men is very often some of the darker and more sophisticated stuff that Marvel has, like in comic book form.
X-Factor's a noir book. You could just do a rated R crime thing.
Yeah,
if they ever did that. Yeah, no, I think the immediate foreseeable future we will see more R-rated X-Men films that aren't X-Men.
Yeah, it's much harder to call what exactly this does to other studios.
Because I don't think this affects Marvel at all.
I also think that Fox will continue with more minimalistic budgets.
Yeah. Especially for solo character movies and things like
that. Because they're taking these kinds of risks. So they say, we're not sure who exactly the audience for this is going to be, but we've had some success with these kinds of experiments now.
And Apocalypse.
But we're not going to throw $300 million at it.
It was a really big budget movie.
Yeah.
It didn't do terribly,
because it was so been there, done that.
Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. They might go the other way. I don't think this affects Marvel at all. Especially because they have the Netflix shows.
They already have a place for this.
Yeah. Whereas
they've got that platform.
DC, not knowing where that is going at all, it could very well be we could start getting R-rated DC movies. The Suicide Squad 2 could be R-rated. Batman v Superman v
Predator.
Attention span.
My worry with that, of course, is that
you could get Batman versus Predator as a movie.
I would love that. I think that actually fits together really
I don't know who owns Predator, but that's a thing that might happen. Could maybe happen.
Yeah,
Fox. I think Fox owns Predator.
We were talking about that when we reviewed that, and how neat it would be if they tried to cross that.
But I think it's totally possible at this point. I mean, not the actual Batman v Superman, but or the Batman versus Predator. But
as far as somebody thinking this might make money,
Batman movie,
this might be viable to put out.
On the table
now. Oh, totally on the table. Yeah. Well,
especially after the success of the Arkham games.
But see, that's the danger, I think, with DC is they need to get their ducks in a row and just make coherent movies. I mean, we don't know what Wonder Woman's going to look like yet. We don't know what Justice League is yet. But like so far, we've had 3 movies that are that are to varying degrees kind of nonsensical and where I feel really detached from my protagonist, and I don't really understand these people, and they often don't act like real people. They need to get that figured out before they start trying to make really sophisticated movies. But isn't the problem that they think they did that, at least initially?
I'm also willing to bet that if BVS was an R-rated movie, it actually would have done better. I think people would have been so interested in an R-rated Batman v Superman
that it would have done better. I don't think it would have made any more money than it made.
Think so?
I really don't. Why do you say that?
I don't know.
But it made stupid amounts of money first weekend, and then regardless of how that movie was rated, it still would have that massive 70% drop off the second week because the critics killed it.
You might be right.
I don't know how the rating would have translated to critics. And even fans critics, going, "Oh, cool! Like, yay! We got this really rough and tumble, but totally confusing, piece. But it's rated R, so yay! We finally got past that hurdle. We finally beat that ceiling." No, I don't think. If anything, it would have made less money because parents would have known they couldn't bring their kids. Like lots of parents, but lots of people brought their kids to that movie. No, you would have lost money.
No, I mean, it would have helped.
No, I know. I see what you're saying, but I'm still arguing your initial point. You would have lost money.
You might be right.
Manos, I'm sorry, man. We still can't hear you. But anyway, so yeah, it's just. If DC responds to this, and like
the problem is that they do think they're making movies like Logan. At least BVS.
Well, they did initially, and now they've clearly been trying to change their strategy. And that's the thing is
we
that
haven't seen any of those films yet, so
if it turns out that even past. And maybe this will be too late for a lot of people, and they'll have a hard time getting consumer confidence back. But if even forget Wonder Woman and Justice League, forget what those end up looking like. If some of the picks that they're talking about for directors end up actually working out, and they really give those people license to just make a movie, and be and be character driven and tell a story, then they might already kind of have things figured out over there. And then moving forward, having the license to make something just for adults might be good. But I don't think, here's the thing. Other studios could look at this. I mean, I don't know who now, because Marvel's already having immense success with really deep, mature, minus Iron Fist, street level stuff with the Netflix shows. If you went back to Marvel 7, 8 years ago, and this happened, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, cool. There's a place for that. There's an audience." After Logan. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, every studio has tried this in some way, in some place, to varying degrees of success. I don't know if this leads to more story sophistication. That's my worry, because
it never does.
Because
Dark Knight did more story sophistication? No, it led to darker, more grounded superhero movies.
But it did to some degree. I want to think that Dark Knight influenced Marvel. I want to think that it wasn't just Iron Man. That, like, moving forward, some of those movies continued to be a little bit smarter and tried things they might not have tried. I don't know that for sure, but Dark Knight. So Warner Brothers was the last studio that had this reputation. They thought, at least with BVS, that they still were in that place. We're making deep films that are thought-provoking, that change hearts and minds, and in my opinion, Rises went too far with that, and then BVS, and then Man of Steel kind of continued that trend, but had some really great ideas on paper, and then BVS comes along, and it's unintentionally funny how much it's telling you how important it is, and so if Warner's took anything from this, it would be to keep trying to do what they were doing 2 years ago, and I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is might maybe get an R-rated Batman movie,
which is fine. I mean,
that's totally fine. But, like, I mean, you don't want a Batman movie that I don't want the swearing like Logan in a Batman movie. That's not necessary.
No, it's certainly not necessary. And I thought some of it in Logan wasn't necessary. It felt like we both said this. Yeah. They were getting it out of their system early.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how front-loaded that first act is with F-bombs, and they kind of disappear.
But I'm trying to think of any other character at DC that would benefit from that.
I don't know.
I guess you could do a real dark Green Lantern or something.
Yeah, but I don't know that you want to start from that place.
No, I'm racking my brain. I'm like, well, other than Batman, how could they capitalize on that?
That's the thing, is that they don't, by and large, have those characters.
Mm-hmm.
They had.
They do a Red Hood movie, I guess.
I mean, they have primarily Golden Age characters that are traditionally thought of as iconic and stalwart and do no wrong and godlike.
No,
and I really want to see DC make those movies, but that doesn't mean that they can't, again, be intelligent. It doesn't mean they have to be formulaic. It doesn't mean they can't be more sophisticated. I want to see, and I know you're not a big fan of this, but I want to see DC try, if you're going to do a big shared universe, go to the big epic iconic stories using a lot of those characters. Do a Kingdom Come or something. Do that kind of thing.
And Kingdom Come would be a great thing that they could do, bordering on our rating.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even something like Identity Crisis.
Yeah, no, Identity Crisis. And
I think you could drop us right into a pre-established world we haven't seen yet into a story like that. I mean, I really do.
The other possibility, and this is a very minor possibility, but oh boy, do I want this, is you could see them try to launch Wildstorm as like a separate R-rated superhero movie universe.
Yeah, but who could possibly care? Oh, but like that's a, forgive me, but like but like that's not a realistic kind of thing to
see.
To
the
expect.
Thing is, I don't know if it's realistic to expect, but you do the Authority movie. You're doing a movie on the scale of the Avengers, but it's R-rated. I think people would be interested in that. I think I could see DC thinking, or Warner Bros. Thinking people could be interested.
Not after Watchmen. There's no way DC tries that after Watchmen didn't make the money they expected. Yeah. They're trying to Watchmenify the characters that are already popular, or at least that's what they were doing with BVS. Yeah. That's not the direction you go right now. if there is no reason that they shouldn't be able to make popular, exciting movies, be they fun or more dark and grounded, out of the big major iconic characters that are already proven. Why on earth would you take the risk to try stuff that nobody cares about right now when, I mean, like, they've done a lot of counterintuitive things, so maybe that would be their next step. They'd go, oh well, apparently no one cares about Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman. Let's look at other superheroes that we can popularize in the first place. That's not what would happen.
You could also see a push for the Vertigo universe, Swamp Thing, Hellblazer, stuff
like
that.
Yeah,
you could see that.
Well, but especially because there was a Justice League Dark film in development for a while. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about that.
Yeah.
Now that I could see, but I would expect that. Well, I might have expected that in conjunction with that stuff, except we excuse me, with the current extended universe. But then we keep having discussion about other properties they want to bring in, but not have part of that universe. And I'm telling you, if the Shazam thing ever happens, they will pull it in. I cannot see they're using any mainstream or remotely mainstream DC characters that they don't put in their extended universe.
You could. Most of the stuff I'm thinking of that I feel like they could make movies out of that are skewing more towards the Logan aren't movies that would easily be sellable.
Yeah.
You could do that with The Question. You could do Gotham Central.
Sure. But I guess I don't want to run too far away from ourselves with the whole what does DC have that they can do that with. They've already been trying this and they've been failing at it, and they've been trying it with the characters that are already popular in the mainstream. Logan doesn't help Warner Brothers.
No,
because
it just makes them go like, I'll get it. We did that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, almost 10 years ago now, they already did that. Where they pushed envelopes, they changed hearts and minds. They got regular audience goers and smarter, more sophisticated audience goers to go, oh, this is just a movie. It's about a guy in a cape, but there's something to latch on to. I care about this guy, and I like crime drama, and it feels socially relevant and stuff. So I don't know. I think DC needs to just, as I've said a million times, go back to their roots and look at what made those characters tick and what made them popular in the first place. You know, why people like them, you know, in the first place. But going back to the question of what Logan does to the future of all of this, I wish people would look at why that movie worked. And I don't know that they're going to. Well, I think Fox will, but I don't know they're going to. You know what I wish? I wish Logan would make Fox try one more time with FF.
You think so?
Yeah.
And just give it to somebody that's just got vision.
Yeah. And I mean, like, well, Marvel has vision, but yeah, I would like to.
But Fox has Kang.
As I've said a million times, I would much prefer Marvel to get FF. But if Fox is, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, if Fox decides not to let the rights expire, because obviously in a perfect world, that's what I would want to happen. But if they don't let the rights expire and they do make another one, and I feel bad for Josh Trank. To some degree, we still don't know exactly what happened with all of that, because this time somebody might come along and get to do what Josh Trank tried to do, which is take some risks, push envelopes, do something new with that material, and try to tell a more thoughtful story. And but I would like to think that things like Deadpool and Logan would maybe make Fox go throw their hands up in the air and go, okay, who loves FF? Who just really likes that property? We're not going to interfere with it. You do whatever you want to. Fox has learned now that they don't have to understand a property to make money with it.
Yeah, I mean, Deadpool taught them that.
Yeah.
At the very least.
They don't have to understand that property. I don't know that they've ever really understood Wolverine.
Yeah. You
see what I'm saying? There is no reason that it should have taken 25 years before we had what felt like a real authentic Wolverine movie. I mean, the Wolverine is pretty decent too. But Logan is kind of what Wolverine fans always wanted, you know, a whole lot of different ways. And I'm telling you, that movie didn't make the kind of money it made just because you got to see people get decapitated.
Well, and the other thing that I think Fox is already obviously doing this, but could affect DC and possibly Marvel, is the audiences care that much about continuity. If this all blows up in DC's face, I could see DC's recovery attempt being giving people with vision just like, okay, go make Superman Red Son, go make Kingdom Come, go make, you know, these standalone pieces that don't have to connect. And I could maybe see in a certain light Marvel looking at that and that being like, maybe we can do some what if movies. Maybe we can do movies in other dimensions and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point too. If they're actually looking
because
at
Deadpool and Logan are both successful out of continuity.
if they're actually looking at the
films.
content, you know, if they realize that that's what's going on, because I think at a studio head level, you're not likely to be thinking that way. You're not likely to even understand this or have, you know, articulated this notion of multiple continuities of continuity in general. Really, you know what I mean? I mean, that's a real. Obviously, continuity is just stuff happening moving forward and remember everything.
Everyone's pushing for a cinematic universe.
Yeah, so they get the idea of a bunch of different movies that could have been disparate, all existing in the same universe. But this X-Men thing, the idea that some of them seem to count with each other and some of them don't. I don't know that other studios outside of Fox have necessarily picked up on that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, Logan looks like kind of a what if thing or a possible future or however you want to look at
it. I mean, maybe this is Fox's model now. I mean, we've had 3 films in a row that have no connections to any other films.
Yeah, and they know it because we're doing things like putting a different version of Caliban in 2 movies next to each other.
Yeah.
You know, which was a really odd choice.
Yeah.
And so, you know that like they're calling attention to it intentionally, or at least that director is.
Maybe that's what they're doing at the beginning of Apocalypse, where it has no connection to Days of Future Past whatsoever. They're calling attention to we're not doing continuity anymore. We're not doing that.
I want to go to comments because we're getting a lot of interaction, and one person you suggested, like, and this goes to what you're talking about, suggested like anthology superhero movies. I kind of like the idea of doing almost like the antithesis of the shared universe, like you're suggesting, that you would maybe have a lot of actors that could come back and reprise roles, but you do a bunch of one and done stories that are all set in kind of different versions of a DC universe. And maybe you do one definitive one, or maybe you even have a definitive franchise movie where you have like a Justice League. I'm just spitballing. You have like a Justice League trilogy, and then outside or whatever, or an ongoing series. But outside of that, and maybe you can even have some shared universe movies that are connected to it. You do a Batman movie here, you do a Wonder Woman movie here, but then connected to that, we just keep doing all of these crazy, you know,
also
bad stuff, crazy.
We're doing a No Man's Land trilogy that's not connected to anything. We're doing this.
Yeah, or things that look like way off the beaten path because they're Elseworlds. You could just do an Elseworlds series, you know? Like what if you took whoever is playing Batman and had him play the Gotham by Gaslight Batman, you know, or even recast it, you know? But like it would be like taking the model for the DC direct-to-video movies before we try to make that a continuity. And do a live action set of those.
And this is not the first time.
Now, is that confusing to an audience potentially? Yeah, potentially. But people seem to be a little bit savvier now, and all this geeky stuff is more in. So we're starting to get. I think the mainstream is starting to catch on to some of the comic book trends.
Well, and this is not the first time. I think we've had this conversation, and people have had this conversation before the DC universe started. People were already like, "Yeah, but just go like make a Dark Knight Returns movie." Just go make a Red Sun movie. Just do that. We'd love that.
And Logan is totally standalone. You know, I mean, it calls back to some things. But that's a great question. Is that the first step of doing those kinds of movies? And don't you want to see movies again?
Yeah.
You know, and inside of and like we're just talking about superhero and comic book. I don't know that Logan doesn't affect the industry. I don't know if there's not a little bit of looking at Logan and going, you know, that's nearly to totally Oscar worthy. Where are those movies? You know, wouldn't it be interesting if the superhero genre brought back the Western? You know, wouldn't it be interesting if you had whatever your big genre was right now, resurrect some genres that other people aren't that interested in right now? We've been talking about this a lot lately. We did that whole show a few weeks ago on fantasy, and and I could see sword and sorcery come back in a big way in some kind of a superhero thing, and then that jumpstart sword and sorcery in general. You know, what if that happened with Western and revenge thriller and you know, smarter, more sophisticated horror? I'm not saying Sony will do this, but what if Sony made the brilliant Venom horror film? And that helped to resurrect people's interest in horror. I mean, obviously, this is all, we keep talking about this. This is already happening with Guardians. You've got a lot more studios willing to attempt science fiction and quirky science fiction because of Guardians. Can this happen with other genres? I submit, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Western's ever going to make a big comeback.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest go-to genres.
In conjunction with something else, right? It's a subgenre with something else. We do that in space all the time.
People like things that have Western overtones, or something that kind of looks like a Western but isn't cowboys. Western, I think, might be the predominant genre of. I just don't like those kinds of movies.
Grady Childs in the comments, and I want to go to comments because we're getting a ton of stuff people are adding their 2 cents, and thank you guys for your thoughtful comments as always. Grady Childs here in the chat. Logan, apparently, hi, that's me. I know it's confusing. We're doing a show, so some people looked at the title for tonight, Life After Logan, and they thought I was quitting the channel, which is funny because I just announced I'm taking a few weeks off. But yeah, somebody in the comments was like, well, I thought you meant Life After Captain Logan. But anyway. Grady Child says that apparently, and I hadn't heard of this, but apparently they're working on an animated Gotham by Gaslight, and they've already cast a Catwoman for it. So that's interesting. Yeah. That's so I don't know, but I want that to happen. But that's not wholly surprising because we almost got a video game. But I've been wanting the DC direct-to-video movies to go to the Elseworlds so badly, and there are just a million really good pieces of source material there that would be so much fun for animation. Speeding Bullets comes to mind. I mean, there's a lot of... There's The Nail. Did you ever read The Nail? That is it is a completely, like, alternate universe, but like where it actually brackets, and the whole thing is that the Kents drive over a nail and it blows the tire out in their car, and they don't go get Superman. And then the entire DC universe takes a completely different direction. I have, I feel like I've heard you mention that book, but I've never heard of it outside of that. I forget who does it. It's I know about it. Bigger from the 90s. That dope channel Spawn Year 2, Life After Logan. And then there's a sequel called Another Nail. Do Batman Thrill Killer. Mind the Gap. The problem with that thinking, this is from a couple minutes ago, Captain Logan, is that when the next successful thing comes out, then all the studios will examine that movie's success. That's a fair point. That doesn't mean that some of this can't work in harmony. Obviously, not every movie needs to be Logan. And we are still in the shadow of the Dark Knight with people making superhero movies. Of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I've used this example before, but there, it's shallow thinking versus really dissecting a thing and looking at why it resonated with people. You see what I'm saying? So it's not trying to find the magic bullet. And the example I go to a lot, of course, is Lost, where NBC was like, I think NBC, the big ticket is we make shows where nobody knows what the heck is going on, and it's a mystery that unfolds and digs forever. And they tried that with a couple of different shows, and they didn't have characters that people were latching on to. Lost was ABC. Lost was ABC. Because Heroes was NBC. Which was part of that. Well, the reason I said NBC is I think they also tried a show or two like Lost, trying to do the Lost thing. Well, but ABC was certainly also doing that. Is a lot like Lost. In a little bit, the unfolding mystery, but especially a huge spanning cast. Yeah, but no, you're right. But right after Lost ended, you had 2 or 3 shows on at the same time that were. I'm trying to remember what that. Was you like that? I don't know. I didn't see V. I didn't watch V. But where you'd have like a big high concept thing where some big tragic thing, supernatural, unexplained thing happens, and and there are like symbols and questions about what they mean.
Was that Flash Forward
and
show like
Flash
that?
Forward was like that. Yeah, thank you. That was the one I was trying to think of. But there were another, show or two like that. And they didn't understand why that show was successful. The problem, of course, with Lost is that Lost also didn't fully understand why it was successful, I think.
This is the exact same thing happened with the X-Files.
Yeah.
And you had those spin-offs like Millennium.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's it's technically in the same universe because crossover.
Yeah, no, it is.
And he show ran it, or he helped create it and whatnot. And you had a lot of shows like the X-Files trying to pop up around the X-Files.
And even a decade later, you had Fringe.
Yeah.
Except it was actually kind of successful. For a while. It was on, 4 years, I think.
And it has an ending. Like, it ran its course.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know if it got canceled or...
That seems like a show that you would like. I've never seen it, but it seems like it's all about...
I watched the pilot and hate it, but then I heard a lot of great things about it after that it picked up. And
yeah, like season 2, season 3, something like that.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a whole season that's in alternate dimension from the previous seasons.
Yeah, which is really that's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make is yes, Mind the Gap, you're absolutely right that you'll superficially look at a thing that was successful and try to find that that like one big element. Okay, this is what's in now. It's not a matter of figuring out trends. It's a matter of realizing that people are. It's ironic. It's the opposite. People are sick of being fed the same thing over and over again. They're sick of a lot of people don't know it, and they go and they think they enjoy a thing and they're expecting, what they're expecting. And obviously not everybody is the same. So I don't want to speak blanket statement, but like people do like going to, I gotta be careful here. People do like seeing the familiar, but I think, usually when you get these cases where you have something really new and unique and special, it's because nobody knew they wanted that. And the answer to having those kinds of hits again isn't do Logan again. It's not do Lost again. It's do what those things did, which is trying something totally unusual. And those ideas tend to always come from a concept and a character place. It's not that you're like, you can't catch lightning in a bottle like that. You can't make that happen on purpose. You just have to be creative. You just have to be thinking and trying stuff and letting a story just be a story.
The big thing that I think needs to happen to help Logan resonate and not just be like a real quick, like we start like 3 or 4 movies that maybe never get made and that are influenced by that. If it gets nominated for Oscars, it will be something that I think will really affect.
That changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
doesn't have to win them, I don't think. I think if it just gets nominated.
Yeah, and again, it can't be like Dark Knight where it's obligatory, and it wouldn't be. I mean, I don't think there would be any obligatory Oscars for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of.
And as I said when we did the spoiler cast for Logan, that movie continuing to resonate and get into the craw of the public consciousness, he has to never play that role again. Because the next time he does it, we're just going to be comparing it to that movie. Like, that has to be the end of that version of that character. I'm not saying we can't have Wolverine again. I'm not saying we shouldn't recast it. We should.
Jackman can't be Wolverine again.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if there's some other stuff we want to mention from the comments, because they're just popping up real fast. And, I miss having a comment moderator. I should think about bringing somebody else in to do that. That Dope Channel, Cap, do you think James Gunn's point about studios learning the wrong lesson from Deadpool has been refuted by Logan, or might Sony make those mistakes Gunn predicted future R-rated cape flicks might? We are only 12 months away from Deadpool. It is just too early to tell.
Yeah, we have no idea. And Logan is not refuting it because it's the same studio.
Right. And was in development as Deadpool was coming out. And, like, I don't know. Like, you and I have both said that Deadpool, that Fox was smart with Deadpool in allowing another thing like that to happen, but it was kind of already in development. Maybe they were maybe they kind of saw the writing on the wall and expected it to be somewhat successful with fan interest and stuff, and maybe Ryan Reynolds, convinced them of some things. So like Deadpool might have been part of why Logan was allowed to be what it was, but not the success of it. Not the kind of money it made and the waves it made in the culture. I think that's a great question, Dope Channel. I just think it's a little early to tell. I really, immediately after Logan or after Deadpool, and I still have this, I really expected that 2 or 3 years down the line we would start seeing more of those kinds of movies. But I don't know if they're going to be superhero things. I just think that raunchy comedy is in. And so we're going to get more of that kind of stuff. I don't know how it's
raunchy comedy.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think because of a lot of some audience sensibilities, I think doing a movie kind of like that was already on some people's minds. Like Suicide Squad isn't far and away from that.
Kick-Ass.
It's just not as good, and it's not a straight up comedy. But yeah, and we try to think like that with Kick-Ass. I think with Deadpool, it's more of what was really unusual about that as a success was how off the page it was. It's such a weird character. You'd think that you would have to, and I know you think the story is watered down, but and I'm with you on that to at least some degree. But like Fox was not allowing Deadpool to be Deadpool until that point. And people lump all those things together and they say, look, a studio will allow for a really raunchy movie based on a superhero. But I think what was more impressive with that was just that they let Ryan Reynolds do his thing. Metalhead Poser, the response to Deadpool and Logan is an R-rated Borderlands movie. It will be interesting to see if that affects video game stuff at all. And it's going to be interesting to see what video games as a genre for movies end up being like in the next 10 years anyway, because we still haven't had a real successful one. And we've had 2 in the last 2 years that a lot of fans, I think, were banking on to finally be the one.
Well, and I think
the Dark Knight of video games.
I think the biggest problem video games have right now is that they're already moving visual films. You look at some of the biggest.
Of course,
video
and that's
games.
a totally other show. But
you look at some of the most successful video games. You're like, what's a 20-hour movie? Why would you want a movie of this?
Yeah,
it can't be this.
Because when you do that, and you could make the argument that comics can be like that, where it's like, well, why do we want to just see
it's not moving? It's
a greatest hits? Right, but that's why Netflix was such a revelation, because you finally got to see that serialized mode from comics put on film. And what you'd had previously with movies, if you tried to straight adapt a story or make a movie that's based mostly on a particular arc, but we change some things around, is a truncated version, where we make a 2-hour version of a thing that is essentially a 6 or 12-hour, miniseries. And you're absolutely right. Like, there's not enough of a reason in my mind to adapt something that's already moving. And I still don't understand, we reviewed Ghost in the Shell. I still don't understand taking a lot of animated things to live action, except it's an interesting experiment. And then with the case of something like Beauty and the Beast, it just becomes remake. Like, you could have added all that cool extra story stuff that really enhanced that material in another animated version. It didn't have to be live action before you did that. So video games started to look like almost a lateral move to me. And I made the case when I did the Lego Batman the movie rewind, not to be confused with the Lego Batman movie, that more video games should get that treatment that did, where that was cutscenes from a video game with new cutscenes filled in to make it a cohesive story.
Pretty much any game you can find somebody has done that on YouTube for.
Yeah, but you have to, but like, you can't, with a lot of those games, make a perfect what feels like a cinematic experience, because you still have gameplay elements that will fill in gaps and give you story. I think there's money in that. I think so with some of these developers, there's money in making a movie version with the cutscenes you have, and then filling in with new cutscenes to fill out the rest of the story. And even allow for like miniseries and things like that. You know, it's almost like the motion comic equivalent of a video game, except it's already moving, so it's not awkward necessarily. But that ends up.
I would like that for the Arkham games.
Yeah. We should probably go ahead and move on, even though there is tons of great stuff in the comments right now. Why don't we go ahead and do rants if we have rants? Do you have a rant?
I have a not geeky rant.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, go right ahead. Vince used to do this all the time, man. Go right ahead.
Okay. This is a retail rant. It's affected me in multiple places I have worked retail.
Yeah.
Closing is not last call. The time a store closes is not the last time you have to get into the building to do your shopping. We're closed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Closing is not last call.
Yeah, every place I've ever worked at.
Yep. Why don't people understand? I don't know. It's
if you're open for 5 more minutes and somebody knows what they need, that's different.
Yeah.
If somebody runs in, they're like, I just didn't know if I could make it back in time. I just got off work. You have this movie I really want. I'm afraid you're not going to have it tomorrow. Check me out real fast. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but
you can't browse with 4 minutes left.
No. Or the people that think, well, I got here two minutes before you close, so I have all the freedom in the world. It's not how that works.
You have to stay open for me.
Yeah.
Maybe people miss the distinction between the doors closing and the lights going off. You know what I mean? And it's like, as long as it's still unlocked, you have to stay for you have to stick around for me.
People seem to be under the impression that like you just turn the lights off and leave. Like there's no closing processes for anything. You just you're closed, so you're just gonna leave. Like they don't understand that like you're keeping people a half hour past when they're supposed to be off. Like they want to go home.
Yeah. Divid22 says, so retail is not a bar. Well, no, and the thing is, last call doesn't happen 5 minutes before the store closes.
No, it happens a half hour before.
Yeah. So you have time to finish your beverage and leave. But when the doors close...
Yeah, it's closed.
Yeah. So 5 minutes before a bar closes, somebody walks in, they're not getting served. That's why you have that.
Yep.
You know, maybe some retail stores, but this would sound really like anti-customer service, right? Like maybe retail stores should go to a last call model, you know, where like 15 minutes before the door closes, it's like, okay, I mean, you'll go to big box stores where somebody will get on the intercom and they'll be like, okay, start walking up to the front now.
And people still don't.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes you go into stores and people don't inform you that they're closing in 5 minutes, and you get a bunch of dirty looks and you're confused.
Look, that was not my fault, okay? This happened at Toys R Us. I almost got thrown out of a second Toys R Us. Not really, but but I didn't know they were closing. I forgot it was Sunday.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
I thought they still had an hour or two, and we got these like glaring looks when we walked in. That's no way to be. Just say, just so you know, we're closing in 5 minutes. If there's something you need, go grab it and check out. Like that's fine, but something else that I think people forget about when they go to retail stores is that places tend to have lines, especially at close, because of last minute shopping. So you're not. It's sort of like if you need to be somewhere at 8:30 and it's going to take you half an hour to get there, don't start putting your shoes on at 8. Put your shoes on at 5 to 8, and then make sure you're in the car by 8 o'clock. And I think that people miss that when they go to stores sometimes, where it's like, okay, 5 minutes, I've got time to get my thing and go get in the line. Well, no, maybe you don't, you know, and it's just a little bit inconsiderate. You're keeping these people. And, you know, there are exceptions to everything. There are times where I completely understand that a person will ask you to make an exception. Yeah. But, yeah. Nope, that's a good rant. Yep. My rant is, and this is not against anybody. This is nobody's fault. It's just a thing that happens that I get irritated about, and I have to, in my mind, make sure that I'm not looking irritated or anybody thinks I'm blaming them for it. I don't like going to a movie theater because we go to the movie theater frequently. Eric and I see a movie on average twice a month, and lately more like once a week. we still might see Furious
Fate of the
Furious, just because that would be hilarious. I've never seen one of those movies. And cars are falling out of buildings. There's a part of me that really wants to
And there's like
know.
1,000 remote control cars that are going, but not like remote control cars. Like
They're just
real cars that are being controlled
remotely,
like flipping around the corner and stuff.
Yeah. By the way, hi Connor. I don't like going to the theater with people that don't frequently go to see new movies, because I have to, during credits, during previews, especially previews for movies that look awful, I have to watch them have all the reactions I've already had, or worse, like things I didn't like, and then not say anything.
You know, that's the thing I have in movies where, like, if you go to the movies often, you see the trailers for the same movie a bunch.
Yeah.
It befuddles me when I go into a movie and people laugh at the jokes that were in the trailers, where I'm like, how have you not seen this 7 times?
Yeah, exactly.
You know this is coming.
Yeah, I guess that's even worse when it's a person that you know has seen that a million times already. But yeah, when it's somebody, because I took my mom and my stepdad to Beauty and the Beast the other night, and of course I'd already been, and it had a lot of really, really bad trailers, and I had to watch my mom laugh at things I didn't think were funny, and with respect to my mother, and Jeff roll his eyes at all the stuff I rolled my eyes at, and then you end up having to get in conversations you've been in already, and you have to try to, I don't know, I find it it's nobody's fault. Like, I find it just kind of like a tedious exercise where it's like, okay, I have to be respectful. This person wants to have this conversation, but I've already had this conversation, but I don't want to.
This trailer. I
don't want to act like a jerk.
3 months.
Yeah. And it's just different perspectives and perceptions. They haven't seen it, so they're like, the first time you saw it, you talked about all those things too. So it's not fair to be like, leave me alone. I've already done all this before. Well, they haven't. They have they should have the opportunity to, rant just as I am right now. But anyway, so that's my rant. Geekiest thing you did this week, Eric?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Pass.
You don't have a geekiest thing?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't have a great one this week either.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
I mean, you've been watching a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been watching anything especially interesting and worth mentioning. But
I'm still watching through Community. It's kind of. I just started Stargate. I did that, but that was last week.
Yeah, you talked about that last week, right? Yeah. This week passed by a lot faster. It feels like we just did this.
Yeah.
I guess mine, I don't know that this is any geekier than anybody else would have with a thing like this, but the only thing I wanted to bring up is I had a kind of like ethical conundrum discussion with my wife about The Matrix and whether or not we could show any of that movie to Jason. Because we really wanted to watch that movie, and of course it is rated R, but rated R in 1999 is real different from rated R now. And I am running into this and realizing that I am too desensitized now to a lot of violence. And I go back and look at that movie, and it's just so much tamer than it was when I first saw it. And believe it or not, and judge me if you want to, you have to make a judgment call as a parent. We let Jason watch most of that movie. There were things that we shielded him from, and that we kind of got him out of the room for.
Yeah, the Matrix kind of falls in that what I've always called like dad movies, like movies you're not really ready for, but you watch with your dad, like Die Hard's the big one.
Yeah.
But things like that.
I saw Terminator not too far after Jason's age. Jason's almost 7.
Yeah.
And there's so much really creative imagery and stuff in that would capture a kid's imagination, that I kind of wanted him to see some certain scenes, he was really captivated by the Kung Fu scene. Well, of course, he loves martial arts. He's a Power Rangers fan. And there were, the ending blew his mind, and I kind of wanted him to get to have that experience, but it's not really a kid-appropriate movie. So it as a parent, it's a real tough judgment call. And that was the first time Sarah and I showed him something where we were not real sure we made the right call.
How do you feel after it?
About the same. I mean, obviously, this is different than just setting your kid by himself in front of the TV and letting him watch anything. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we were talking to him through it and making sure he was okay with, and not freaking out, and afterwards we discussed things about the movie, and he was in love with it.
Well, and part of it is, the no two kids are the same. One 7-year-old might be able to handle something that an 8-year-old can't.
Yeah, but also being able to handle something and should they be influenced by it are also different questions. And I don't know, it's just being a parent's hard, and I think it's harder now than it's ever been. I also think, as far as that kind of thing goes, I also think that has been true since the advent of television and film. So, Yaver 76, I was born, and the first thing I saw was The Rock. Dimitri too. When I was 7, I was watching Family Guy. Yeah, that's not a choice I would have made.
No.
Hawk Flame. Me, I saw Aliens when I was 10.
I saw RoboCop when I was 6.
And Morton Joel, just for context, how old is Jason? As I said, he's almost 7. He turned 7 on the 22nd of this month. We're gearing up for a birthday party. Oh, we're so excited about this party. We're going to have a bunch of folks over. And Jason is planning all this, more or less himself. I'm helping him with it. But we're going to turn the house into an arcade. And we're going to have like 6 TVs with a bunch of different stuff going on upstairs. And he's very excited about it. Nathan Snyder, I learned what the F word was because of South Park.
At least South Park has social commentary. That puts above Family Guy.
Yeah, it's at least kind of a thinking thing.
Yeah, it's got
that doesn't make it okay for kids, but yeah. And Morton Joel, when I was 8, my dad showed me the Austin Powers movies. And
those are PG-13.
Yeah, which is weird because subject matter wise, there's a lot of stuff in that you'd think you would want a kid to be 12 or 13 before you show them. I would have thought, but yeah,
I was not allowed to see those when those came out. My mom was when the first one came out. My mom was in love with that movie, and I was not allowed to see it.
I saw Goldmember in the theater.
Oh, really?
And I was probably 13, 14. Maybe I was even a little bit older.
I think by the time,
and it's awful, but
those
and of course I had seen the other 2 on video by that point. But
those movies are just.
But I remember my mom and my dad had an argument about whether or not it was okay for my dad to take us to those movies, because of course my parents are split, and somehow or other mom got wind of that, and she wasn't happy that he was taking us to those.
First one still holds up as James Bond parody.
Yeah, and I like things about the second one, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it holds up as a comedy. Like, I don't know if Austin Powers is still a legitimately funny movie on its own. As a parody of James Bond, which is a thing I love, I think it's quite good.
We've talked about this a lot lately, Eric, but there are, maybe mostly off camera, but there are, and maybe there should be a show in this, and this would be the main point I would make in that show. There's so much parody elements now in a lot of comedy already, and even dramas, that we've kind of written off farce and parody as a genre, and boy, I miss it. I miss good farce.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that can't come back.
Yeah, no. It's funny. I had a conversation with someone at work not too long ago, maybe a week or 2 ago, about where like everyone just seems to have just kind of written off the parody genre, and like, parodies. Like, why do those movies even exist? And I was like, yeah, but what about every Mel Brooks movie? Yeah. Oh yeah, well those are good. And I'm like, yeah, well you stop making good ones.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so did Mel Brooks, but.
Yeah, it's the difference between, I know I'm a broken record, but it's the difference between being thoughtful and just trying to throw money at things, just trying to money milk something. The best farces tend to be satires of some kind,
and oftentimes,
and also random humor can be really funny. But again, you have to be creative with it. I know I bring Airplane up a lot, but I mean, like, there's so much just that doesn't make any sense, and that's why it's funny.
Lining up to slap him. Well, and this is a thing that we've kind of gotten away from as far as parody is. Parody now, you have the string of those movies that all start with Scary Movie, and I'm sure whoever made Scary Movie is real apologetic for the fact that they started this awful genre.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was still just in the tradition of Airplane and those movies. Why can't I think of anyway?
But but those have become such a
Naked Gun.
You're doing the thing that you're parodying in everything but legal name, and sometimes with legal name, like you are doing this thing but funny. When you go back to a lot of the great parodies, they're not that. Austin Powers is not James Bond.
Yeah.
But the name is slightly different. It is its own thing that is pulling elements from the thing that it's making fun of.
Yeah, but it still came up with its own lore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just cheap. Yeah. The difference is cheap knockoff parody versus
something that can stand on its own.
Thing. Yeah. And I
when Austin Powers came out, I bet you a lot of people weren't huge 60s James Bond fans and were able to appreciate it just as a funny film.
The closest thing I can think of in recent years that does that, and certainly not to the same quality, is Hot Tub Time Machine. And I think it gets close. The sequel I don't like so much, but that first one, it's still its own thing. It still goes its own way. It's
my go-to that I know you haven't seen is the Cornetto trilogy, which is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz.
I need to see those.
And you really do. But they're at some point I'm going to make you watch at least the third one because that's the science fiction one. Mm-hmm. But they are each their own unique thing, but it's a takeoff of the different genres. So it's a funny zombie movie, it's a funny action movie, it's a funny science fiction film, but they're still their own thing.
I think Balls of Fury did that with sports movies.
Yeah, and kung fu movies.
Right, naturally, of course. Red Letter Antilles, I'll read a few things before we go on to a quick open forum. My geekiest thing was combing through Rogue One and looking for Red Letter Antilles. Every week, it's one of these Star Wars things. And
it's
looking,
always a ship, right?
It's almost always a ship, yeah. And looking for where certain ships have cannons and trying to see changes to old ship models from the original trilogy. Finally figured out the Dorian gunship guns.
Great.
Good job. I don't know what that is. I don't right off know what that is.
That should be an episode we should have once. Because we've talked about the
Star Wars ships.
No.
You can have that all by yourself.
Why buddy. It's so bizarre that people go over Star Wars ships and things like they do Star Trek things. Where one of these is trying to be realistic and have coherence. And the other one's just well, that looks cool.
Well, that's nothing against Red Letter Antilles. That's a thing he really likes to do.
No. I'm not knocking him, but I think there's a discussion.
I mean, understand. I've never understood the appeal of that, even in Star Trek. I'm not there for the ships.
I mean, I get that more because it's trying to actually be something.
Some of it's just an aesthetic thing too. Where there's actually
there's science
more of a science behind it. But there's breakdowns with the Star Wars ships, just like with Star Trek, where even if there's not as specific of science behind it, you still know like this part does this and these pieces.
But a lot of times with Star Wars, it seems like somebody just made that up. Well, Star Trek, I feel like that was the intent.
It was there from the first place.
Yeah. This is what this was
really
supposed
detailed
to
blueprints
do.
Before we even shot a frame of footage with it. Yeah.
But no,
but it's not like that with everything. With the main ships, yes. I think there are other afterthought ships that aren't that way.
I think there might be a discussion in the tech spec side of fandom and how we just don't understand it.
Ooh, this is cool. Hawk Flame says for a geekiest thing, he bought Alone in the Dark for the Dreamcast. I've always wanted to play that. And went to a sci-fi club meeting, which had an astrophysicist, I'm getting tired, physicist, discussing the possibility of life on other planets. That's awesome. Really cool. I miss the sci-fi lit club I used to go to with James Gunn, not that James Gunn, but there's a professor at KU he's pushing 90 now, I think. And I've probably talked about him before, but he wrote some science fiction novels in the 60s and maybe some in the 70s too. But he was mostly an archivist. He did a whole lot for keeping track of important and good science fiction stories, and he put together a whole lot of anthologies and things. And he was kind of the number one anthologist for science fiction and the study of the history of it. And he was the big the big science fiction like professor emeritus at KU, and he used to come to that club and he would talk, and he was fascinating. And I interviewed him when I was in 8th grade, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He probably likes Lensman.
Oh, I'm sure he likes Lensman. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead, folks, and go on now to open forum. For about 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to answer any questions you guys want us to about anything happening in pop culture and superhero stuff right now. Culture, there is quite a bit of news and stuff that came out this week. So anything that you want to make sure that we get to, we'll make sure and try to do that. And there's a couple things we'll try to make sure and talk about. And then anything that you guys wrote earlier that you wanted us to respond to during the actual discussion that you want to, don't constantly rewrite it, but that you want to repeat now would be fine, because there were a lot of great things I would have liked to have grabbed onto, and we were just too long-winded and really needed to get to the next segment. So feel free to put any of those things there. Are there any trailers or anything we need to tackle that came out this week?
I don't think so. If there are, I didn't watch them.
Yeah, and I just said there was a bunch of stuff. I know there were things that I wanted to respond to, and I should have made a list, because now they're not immediately. Oh, I know. One of them was Squirrel Girl. That apparently that's supposed to be a freeform thing. They've
not just Squirrel Girl / Squirrel.
Oh, really? I didn't see that part of it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I didn't fully call that. I didn't think the Squirrel Girl show would be a team thing,
but
man,
I was gonna get Speedball.
Sure there would be. I was sure Squirrel Girl would get adapted to screen in some way at some point.
Now, to be fair, Freeform...
This might not happen.
Used to be ABC Family.
Right.
They have been supposed to make a number of... Early on in the MCU, they were supposed to do a Hulk show.
Yeah.
Which I still don't understand how you could think you could do that.
More recently, the big thing was
right?
Cloak and Dagger, yeah.
Yeah.
But a couple months ago, there were still rumblings about that. So just because that's been announced doesn't mean that doesn't happen necessarily.
They also don't have the budget or talent to be doing anything comic book.
Oh yes, Manos, thank you for reminding me about that. There was a trailer of sorts that we should probably weigh in on, which is the behind the scenes thing on the Batman Harley Quinn movie.
Oh yes,
and I am excited about that because of the animation, and some of those jokes that they showed us totally landed. But oh boy, the voice for Harley Quinn is not
so
working.
bad.
And it's really strange because they went back for Nightwing and got the guy who did Robin in the first place in the animated series. So I mean, that is kind of a deep pull. It's been a long time since he's voiced that character. It's really cool they went back to him, and I think he sounds fine.
Why would you do something that looks exactly like the old show? You're bringing back the old cast.
Yeah.
And the lead,
your second titular character,
is someone who's a completely different voice actress, doesn't seem to be doing a good job, and doesn't sound like the character.
Yeah, good job's not fair. It's just not a take I like, and it doesn't. I mean, I just feel like she's trying too hard to sound like she's got a really thick, real high up north New York accent.
Yeah, like Jersey, Brooklyn kind of a. Yeah, it's so forced. I don't think, I mean, in the little clips we saw, it doesn't seem like she's doing a good job, because it's a really bad accent. Like, at the very least, I'm not talking about delivery.
But that's not fair, because that's what they hired her on. Somebody liked that voice for some reason. And I don't know if Andrea Romano is on that project. Usually she talks in those behind-the-scenes things, and she wasn't there, so I don't know if she cast her or if somebody else did. And Romano's been casting on a lot of, if not all these projects, going all the way back, so I would be surprised if she wasn't still around. But especially for a Batman animated series project, no less.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm really trepidatious about that choice, and of course, it just, I don't like it. It doesn't sound good. But is I want that to be successful, so they'll do more of them. I mean, I don't want to be trapped in the past, but let's be honest. Asked this based on 52 continuity thing, because until we got to Teen Titans, it wasn't good, and the DCAU is worth revisiting, and it's not just for nostalgia. It's just a good, solid world, and they haven't given this anything in the last 10 years I've liked better. I don't know if you know that we're at a decade now for the DC animated movies. This is the 10th anniversary. Superman Doomsday came out in 07, and I think we need to. If we were to do more things set in the same universe, I don't know what the point is of not. I don't know why we wouldn't just go back to DCAU.
If we won't let Kevin Conroy leave.
then just
do
some
more
things in that
DC,
universe.
Yeah,
and you can do other movies too, but to occasionally throw us one of those, I think would be kind of nice.
Yeah, it is the choice of doing something that looks so close to what it was, getting all of the old voice actors. It's baffling to not get what is her name? I lost it.
Arlene Sorkin.
Either of them. Or Tara Strong. Who does an okay Arlene Sorkin?
Yeah.
Why this? This is not what you do in your throwback.
I mean, sure, and Tara Strong is one of the hands down best voice actors of all time,
Absolutely.
but her Harley Quinn does sound a little bit like if Bubbles was trying to do an Arlene Sorkin. But I kind of like that. I don't have a problem with it. A lot of people don't like it in comparison to Sorkin. But if
she gets cracked,
surely
then
you can get
this lady is going to get torn to pieces.
Tara Strong works on 50 projects a year. There's no reason you couldn't have gotten her in to do that. I wouldn't have thought. I don't know.
I would think Arlene Sorkin would come back, although I don't know why she left the Arkham.
I don't know why she left the Arkham games. So there's probably a story there we don't know. But anyway, what else? Folks are talking about anime and wanting me to review more anime stuff, which is not surprising. Anytime I do anything on anything anime, people ask me to.
I do have on my stack.
People are talking about Evangelion right now.
That is on my stack.
Oh, was that what you were going to say?
Yes. It's Evangelion.
And I knew that. Thank you. Now that you said it out loud,
Evangelion has been very slowly being remade into 4 films.
Let's just remember it's live, folks, and I can't edit that out.
It's been remade into 4 films.
4 films.
Yeah. So it's a 24 episode series, and the ending is terrible, and they ran out of budget. It's a whole thing. So they are redoing it as 4 films. I have the first one on my stack as a made me watch. So at some point that will at least happen.
Mystical Green Beanie claims that Arlene Sorkin said she just couldn't do it anymore.
Okay. So get Tara Strong.
Yeah.
There was no excuse for this.
I don't think there is either. Manos wants to do some anime commentaries with me. Those, of course, would be things that I would have to make sure I was familiar with. But
at some point, Steve and I are doing Wicked City. That's coming. At some point, we're going to do
that. Smarty Pants. I will say this, Cap. I do want you to tackle Young Justice before its return, presumably next year or 2019. I will do my level best to get to it. These top 10 lists are tough, and they take a really long time
might be easier
to write. But and that wouldn't, that one wouldn't be a
season 1, season 2.
Probably wouldn't be, and I should mention this, by the way, folks. If you saw the first part of my Spider-Man list, the second part I'm working on right now, you know that I didn't deliver that in the order of the rankings, even though I did the rankings, because there's too much continuity in that show, and I'm discussing it linearly made a lot more sense. If I had had my druthers, I would have just done that as an overview, and that would have been the first of those I did. But somebody quite a while back now gave me a pretty large donation to do specifically a top 10 list on that. So that's why that had to be in that form, because they asked for that. So that's what I did. But Young Justice and Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man. Because you talked about doing that with Dan. Was it season 1, season 2, or was it going to be the whole thing?
We were going to do spoiler casts.
For each season? Or
yeah,
was it
for each season.
Yeah, you have to.
And we've been talking about,
Young Justice,
and I should also mention, in case people aren't aware of this, we've been talking about turning Primetime Crisis into that. And obviously, you haven't seen Primetime Crisis for a while because I just don't have the time and, frankly, mental capacity with everything I'm working on to keep everything in my head and go episode to episode. And I felt like I was repeating myself real hard. I'm repeating myself now by mentioning it again. But what I've decided to do is go to full-blown season overviews in laid back discussions like this, and do basically spoiler cast, but sometimes for not new things. So over the summer, I'm going to go to probably the CW shows and do those. I don't want to promise that, but at least at the moment, that's my plan. And sometimes that might just be me on my own, and sometimes it might be with a co-host, because there are some of those shows we've all kind of left. So I don't know if I can find anybody to do Supergirl with me. You
could probably get Steve to come back for Arrow.
Yeah. I probably, and that would be fun. I would like to do that. But anyway, Eric and I are talking about doing this with a number of things, and I don't want to mention too many things, but we can throw out a couple of things.
The big one is X-Files.
We've been talking about X-Files,
and we've been talking about doing this for years.
Yes.
going through X-Files.
But I just think this is a great model for everything. I think this works great for all kinds of stuff. I think we should just start binging things and doing season overviews. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the old list model that we did on when Primetime Crisis was live. So we'll give you in a season, so that we are discussing some separate episodes. We'll give you like a best episode, worst episode, most valuable character, least valuable character, and in some kind of fun, quotes and things. We'll give you some fun categories and be a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? We'll have a plan. So anyway, but we're also talking about doing that with the most recent series of Power Rangers, because we
started watching that.
Kind of interested in that new show,
the Ninja Stealer.
Yeah. So anyway, what else? And if folks are wanting us to do that with Buffy, and I think that's the right method to tackle Buffy. This is the 20th anniversary. We've been talking about doing something on that. Although there's also been some discussion amongst us about maybe doing like a top 10 list for that show, but not like Rewind style. So I'm not sure what form that will take yet. But anyway, Manos, when we thought he was going to be on the show tonight, was going to try to, and I'm sorry he wasn't able to get his audio issues figured out, but Manos was going to talk a little bit about the first episode of MST3K, because that dropped, and he's watched it already, and he said he was in a good mood, so I assume he liked it. I'm going to try to watch those when it's all out. I might watch it a little bit as it goes along, but that could end up...
Episode by episode?
No, I think it's all together.
Okay, so it's all out right now.
I think it is all out at one time. But correct me if I'm wrong about that, Manos. But that is another thing I could see a spoiler cast happening for, which would be odd,
I don't know how you
given the kind of thing it is.
It was real funny. It was not real funny.
You probably have to go movie by movie.
Reviewing the movie and then also commenting on
They'd be like mini reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying that's a great idea, but it could happen.
But it is
anyway.
An idea.
Mano says it comes out the 14th, so I'm not sure how he saw the first one. Somebody wants to know if we're watching Samurai Jack. I never finished the old show, so I have not been doing that.
I have not been watching it. I intend to when it drops to streaming, presumably Hulu.
Hopefully someplace.
Also, at some point, I'd like to go back through that whole show, because I know I've not seen all of it, because I watched it when it aired. Samurai Jack is actually what I was watching when my youngest sister was born.
Interesting.
Like I remember... It's funny because it was like 2 or 3 episodes back to back. Not necessarily like a 3-part. They were just running like 2 or 3 episodes. So I was watching it at home. My mom gets rushed to the hospital, and then I get taken there by my grandparents, and I just keep watching it because they've got Cartoon Network on at the hospital. So I'm in the waiting room continuing to watch Samurai Jack. So that's my Samurai Jack story.
Interesting. Redler and Tilly is so glad you're finally going to review X-Files. Been pushing for that for some time. Yeah, thanks. Like I said, we've been wanting to do this forever. We planned it a couple of years ago and both watched the first season
before the revival
to get going for it. Okay, so it wasn't as long ago as I was thinking.
No. We were going to try and get all of it done before the revival. Also to try and get all of that in our head before the revival.
So it was a couple of years ago now.
Well, the revival was
last year. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I don't know how. Yeah,
it was like summertime-ish.
Maybe a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nuts. But anyway, we both watched the first season, and we were rip roaring and ready to go, and then something happened, and we weren't able to get together and do it, and then we got too far away from it. And X-Files always falls out of my head. It always falls out of my head. I
remember episodes. I remember moments. The arc of it, I lose.
We will go back to first season, which I just watched again 15 months ago or whatever it was, and 18 months ago. And there will be episodes I will swear to God I've never seen. It happens every time I go back through any of that show. And I also always stop somewhere around 7. So I've never finished it.
It's not the wrong choice. I've also never seen the last season. I've seen the last episode, but I never watched the last season.
I saw that when it aired.
Yeah. But,
and had no idea what was going on. And then a lot of friends I had that liked X-Files said, no, it doesn't matter that we've been watching it. We also don't know what's going on. So, yeah.
It's a show that both of us like a lot, but can't actually justify calling like big fans.
Yeah, because I don't know. Not every time. Often when I watch it, it's like it's for the first time. Dr. Holocron, thoughts on the rumors of another Arkham game? I haven't heard about that. That doesn't surprise me. Just it's so popular. Who knows what they'll do with it?
Arkham Origins 2.
And we've done a whole show on this. There's a million different ways you could run with that. And the obvious choice would be to make it to spread it out farther and include more DC characters. But
speaking of Harley and Paul Dini, did you see that the current Harley Quinn is now running backup features featuring the actual Harley Quinn written by Paul Dini?
Let's strike that and reverse it, shall we? Just a couple more, folks. There's a lot of stuff here.
Real Harley Quinn. Deadpool knockoff Harley Quinn backup feature.
I want that should be an alternative book. There should be an alternative book called Real Harley Quinn. You know, real like the stand like you're stand-in for any other superhero book moniker like Spectacular or Amazing or Incredible. Real, unbelievable, the real Harley Quinn.
I was flipping through it. They're drawing it not exactly like animated series, but it's in that vein.
But it's real Bruce Timm.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. That dope channel. Can we expect superior rewinds for Arkham Origins or Night? I mean, eventually. I will at least try to tackle Night. Although I can't say I want to. I can't get real excited about that because it falls apart to the point where I don't feel like there's really a story there. It feels like there's some really interesting ideas. I mean, and there's some interesting ideas. But when you get to the end, it's another big master manipulation plot where I don't buy that the guy that orchestrated it all could possibly have orchestrated it. Further, I don't know why we have this military theme with drones and stuff, except it feels timely, but it has nothing to do with the rest of the ideas of the game.
The big thing I've heard from people in so many words is it is masterful storytelling of a not very good story.
Yeah, that's true. It's also real overwritten. There's just a lot of dialogue you could cut, and there's some of that in the other two games. But I mean, really, it feels like a staff. You know, it's by committee. It feels like a staff trying really hard to beat Paul Dini together, and at times they
Paul Dini's
do really
would have been.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too. But anyway, as far as Origins go, I don't want to promise that. That could happen. I mean, yeah, it's also a story-based game, but you know, I did Asylum in the first place because I thought there was not only a really good and interesting story there, and you know, character study for Batman, but also, as I said in that rewind, it felt like the only way you could tell that story, and I really wanted to explore interactive storytelling. As we move along, it's less of that and more just a story as an excuse for a video game, even though Arkham City, I think, has a masterful story, but it didn't have to be a game necessarily. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's not fair to call that an excuse. That could have been the next No Man's Land of the comics. I mean, I wish that had been comics, but I love it in game form too. I mean, that is hands down my favorite game of all time now. But as well, modern game. I mean, you know, I'm not gonna compare those kinds of things to side scrollers. That just becomes a real apples and oranges kind of.
No. Right now, gun to your head, Mario 3, Arkham City, which is better.
Better? I can't do that. So I'm dead, apparently.
Yep, you're dead.
I'm dead.
And now we're going to explore life after Captain Logan.
Life after Captain Logan. Mind the Gap is asking about the Wildstorm. We read the first issue and had every intention of reviewing it, and then we didn't get to it, and we haven't read past that. I haven't been borrowing books from the store, Eric, because I've been getting them so late, and I'm not. I feel like it's a little bit disingenuous to keep doing that because I'm not reviewing right away like I was, and I don't want to hang on to things. So you're gonna have to just wait for trade with those probably now.
I loved the first issue. I thought it was great. It's everything I wanted it to be. It pulls.
I didn't dislike. I need to see more, but I don't know that material.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and then that's the thing that we talked about was I was like, oh well, I know who this is, and I know where that's going, and I know what this is, and he's pulling from. It is not just a like, let's look at what Wildstorm looked like and then reboot it. He's looking at the whole thing. So you have stuff from Wildcats 3.0 in there, and you got all these moving parts. Oh man, I love it so much.
Yeah, and I don't know how well that reads if it's your introduction to the material, and I just feel like you need more issues.
Well, and he said that he's treating it like, I think, 4 books with 6 issues. So almost like it should be read in trade. We're like, this is
and it reads
book
that
1,
way.
book 2, book 3, book 4.
Yeah, it like a lot of things right now that aren't forcing themselves into an arc model, it doesn't really feel like it's intended to be read month to month.
It's also
and I don't know what the purpose is. Like I don't know if he's intending, and I'm just not getting this enough from the page yet. I don't know if he's intending anybody to pick that up that's never looked at Wildstorm before.
He says he is.
It feels real reinvention though. You know, it feels like I said this back when Man of Steel came out. A lot of the things that intrigued me so much about that movie when it came out were because I'm a Superman fan, and I mean most people would get with that material the places where we're subverting and diverging, but I thought to myself, if I didn't know that Lois Lane isn't supposed to know Clark Kent and Superman are the same person from the beginning, or that she's not supposed to meet Superman before she meets Clark Kent, I don't know that I would appreciate this as much.
And I could say this is DC's second kind of minor imprint after the Young Animals. While I've not read Doom Patrol, I think this works more effectively than any of the other Young Animals books I read. Where like I just immediately I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I don't need, like I do with Mother Panic or Kate Carson and Cybernetic Eye, where I'm like, well, I'll give this a couple issues and see where this goes.
Yeah.
And immediately I was like, oh, this is great, and I want all of it.
Mr. Metalhead and a couple other people in the comments are kind of pulling for more Let's Do It Again. We've talked about this a couple weeks ago, that you're going to do what you can to bring that back. But Mr. Metalhead suggested doing it with Iron Fist, which I think is just a great idea.
Oh, yeah. That would be a good idea.
You know,
I don't know if Matt actually watched that show. I could see him quitting on that.
And I would try to do it were it me in that format.
Yeah.
I would pitch the Netflix and it being the next thing after Luke Cage, but before Defenders. David 22, Geekvolution needs a moderator. Yeah, Geekvolution needs a moderator bad. I'm gonna do what I can to bring that back. We haven't had Rasco in a while. He's busy moving. And if he were here tonight, I would be asking him to do that, because there's so much stuff in the comments that we have not been able to respond to.
Did you intentionally draw out Spawn in that?
Say it again.
Did you intentionally draw out Spawn in that? You're like, respond to.
No, I didn't. In fact, when you said that, I was like, I didn't say the word spawn anywhere. Did I say something was spawned or is spawning or some folks are asking for Tim Lyons. Yeah, that'd be great if I could get him to be here on a Sunday. I'll talk to him. That'd be good. Yeah, he'd be great for that.
Yeah.
And David was making okay, so I gotta mention this real quick because I have fixed it, so a lot of you folks won't know about this, but in the description for the 24-year spoof video we did, which, by the way, thanks for everybody's feedback on that. People seem to really like that. I was really happy with how it came out. That was so fun, much fun to make.
My knees have finally recovered.
Yeah, Eric, it took us an hour to shoot that scene, and Eric about killed himself dropping to his knees constantly. But anyway, it could have been worse, though, because originally we were supposed to do that with Batman gauntlets, and I had these really sharp Batman gauntlets.
And every time I fell, it was like, whoop, almost got you.
He was taking his life in his hands, and after the third one, we finally went, let's do it with one of those, that was your idea. We'll do it with one of the feline signs. But anyway, in the description, I accidentally wrote Time Lions. I don't know if it was an autocorrect thing or what happened, but it was Time Lions. And the person who alerted me to this was Tim. And he sends me a message and he goes, that is certainly a cooler name than my name, but I just wanted to mention that my name is not Time Lions. So anyway, that was pretty funny.
Time Lions sounds like a Voltron spinoff.
Well, folks, we are all out of time. That's going to be it for us tonight. I know there were a lot of other cool questions and things that we could have responded to, and I will work on a moderator because it is just too much when the comments are coming like they are. We've got an unusual number of folks watching tonight, so if you're wondering why it's been harder for me to keep up with it, it's because there are more comments tonight. But anyway, so thanks for that. We sure appreciate it, guys. Really cool of you to watch, and I suspect some of those people might have thought that I was going to announce my departure from the channel, and that might be why more folks are watching tonight. So sorry to disappoint, but no, I'm not leaving, at least not forever. But I have this book I want to work on, and I haven't written a novel in a lot of years now. I have been focusing, of course, last several years, much more on the nonfiction side of things and writing more about fiction than I've been writing fiction. But as some of you folks know, I got into all this in the first place to write books, and I'm a writer before, and stories in general. I'm a writer before I'm a video producer, and kind of fell into this in a really interesting way, and it has become my life, and I love it, but I also have got to get back to my first love, which was fiction writing. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next few weeks, and you will still see us here and there, and maybe some of our co-hosts will also be able to post some things of their own in the interim. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it, and like I said, in the next couple of days, you will see me again in a lot of stuff that we just haven't gotten up yet. So that, again, this week is going to look like a real normal week. It's like, Cap, what do you mean hiatus? You keep posting things. That happens every hiatus too. What do you mean hiatus? You keep posting things. But I shouldn't even announce it. I should just see if anybody notices. You know, Cap, I've noticed that you're making one less video a week. Are you taking a break? But anyway, in a couple of days, you'll see the new pool party, and that's us monthly talking about comic books, me and Logan, Ian, and the rest of Marvel Mania is coming, and that other Superhero Rewind on Top 10 Spider-Man animated episodes. In the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Thanks for watching, folks.